The college football season's almost over. It's about time for us to dig into these prospects, and I want to start things a little bit slow. I want to scratch the surface. So today we're going to go over three wide receivers, three of the bigger named wide receivers today, just to get a feel for the class a little bit. And of course, we're going to go over this class in a lot of depth this year, like every year. There'll be multiple videos, but we want to start things off right now, getting things started, getting the gears greased up. So we're going to drop three wide receivers today. If there are any players you want me to talk about, any players you're interested in from this year's rookie class, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you're feeling about this year's class, whether it's wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, or quarterbacks. I'm always game to hear about it, but draft season's a big deal around these parts, and we have to dig into this. So the first wide receiver we're going to talk about today, and we all know who he is, we all have been studying him for the last few years, is Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. 2022 has been a lost year due to an injury, so we have to look back at 2021, his sophomore season, the big year that everyone's looking at and what people will look at statistically from him. There's also a chance he could just come back for another year, but odds are he's coming out for the draft. The odds are probably saying that, but don't be surprised if we get the opposite news. But we're looking at him right now as a prospect. 2021, during his sophomore season, caught 80 balls for 1,259 yards and 6 touchdowns, had a 32.43% market share of Ohio State's passing production. That led the team in receiving, which meant he outproduced Garrett Wilson, who's balling out at the NFL level right now, had a big game yesterday, and Chris Olave has been one of the top rookie wide receivers in the NFL right now as well. So he was able to outproduce both those guys. He's very efficient. 7.6 yards after the catch per reception. 8.8 average depth of target. Ran 90% of his routes in the slot and had 3.56 yards per route ran. The big game everybody wants to point to over his career was in the bowl game against Utah, where he had 336 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Almost a season's worth of production for some players. 336 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a baller game there. And this is what put him on notice with some of the casual college football watchers when he started to go off. If you wind back in the early days of this channel, we went over some of his high school tape, and one thing I can tell you is he was a very polished route runner, strong hands at the high school level, and transitioned fairly quickly once he got to Ohio State. And he really just fit in there. 5-star prospect, solid route runner, creates separation, also has strong hands. They pluck the ball away from his body overhead, can make tough grabs, good ball skills. He made a really tough grab during his freshman year as well, back of the end zone, tiptoed the foot down. Really sexy play. He's a big playmaker as well. He's got a solid release package off the line of scrimmage. He's listed at 6 foot, 197 pounds, so requisite size for the NFL level, and that's just listed. Things really change once we get the real measurements from the combine, so you don't really hold those to stone. All in all, a solid body of work here by Jackson Smith-Njigba. We got the requisite breakout age, sophomore season, probably around age 19. So the odds of him being a bust at the NFL level are not near as good as someone who doesn't have those numbers. He's been productive. He's shown that he can take over games. He's been efficient. He's given us everything we like to see from a top-tier collegiate wide receiver. We just missed out on that 2022 season. And will he come back, or is he going into the NFL draft? We'll have to see. Odds are he goes out for the draft, but don't be surprised if he pulls a Chris Olave either. The other wide receiver here has been a baller throughout his career as well. Everybody's been talking about him, and he has made a big transition this year. And I'm talking about Jordan Addison, wide receiver from USC. He transferred there this year after having 2 productive seasons at Pittsburgh. broke out during his freshman season at age 18, early breakout age with a 23.31% market share with 666 receiving yards. This is during 2020, the COVID year. College football was really weird during that time, and he was still able to be productive. He was one of those hot freshman wide receivers that a lot of Devy gamers were looking at. In 2021, last year, was when we saw him go off, and he might have been the reason Kenny Pickett got drafted in the first round. He caught 100 balls for 1,593 yards and 17 touchdowns. Had some big moments, made some big plays downfield, showed ball skills, showed some speed, showed ability to create separation. He really helped out Kenny Pickett last year and was pronounced one of the top wide receivers in the country. Then he transfers to USC here in 2022. And from the outside looking in, the numbers don't look too great, but when you look at him from an efficiency standpoint, he's not too shabby. And if you paid attention to him all season long, he's been making plays. He has 810 yards and 8 touchdowns on the year, but still efficient. 2.99 yards per route run, 7.3 yards after the catch per reception this year, 146 QB rating when targeted, and this is all career highs while he's been at USC, beating his marks while at Pitt. And during those years at Pitt, are nothing to shake a stick at, had a good couple seasons there as well. He's a dynamic playmaker, can take over games, strong hands, catch the ball away from his frame, has the plucky hands to go with that. Good with the ball in his hands as well, can get you to yards after the catch, can create separation, savvy route runner like all these guys are, listed at 6 foot and weighs 175 pounds. Again, you're going to have to check with him at the combine for see what he really measures and weighs in at. But all in all, solid wide receiver prospect, solid from the beginning to the end of his career. Going to be interesting to see how he does at the NFL level, but we know he's going to get that draft capital because he's been productive, he's been making plays, he's been on big programs and in big games with big moments. So this is one of those players you want to look at. The next wide receiver we're going to be talking about today is a prolific playmaker, super athletic. A lot of people have him up on their board, and they're talking about Quentin Johnston from TCU. 2022 started out slow, but he's really turned things up over the back half of the season, had 2 really big games. He broke out during his freshman season in 2020 with a 24.81% market share of the team's passing production with just 487 yards. Remember, like I just said, 2020 was a weird year for these players because college football was weird during that COVID year. We saw him take over some games in 2021. The game that stands out the most is that Oklahoma performance. That night, he went off for 185 yards and 3 touchdowns. Had that touchdown in the end zone where he just mossed that dude and showed his strong hands and his playmaking ability. He was on the rise after that game. A lot of people was talking him up. He's also been noted as a size-adjusted speed freak because he can get downfield and he's a bigger wide receiver with good athleticism. So that's something everyone's intrigued by. 2022, obviously slow start, but currently has 49 catches for 764 yards and 5 touchdowns. Most yards on the career so far. So solid with 2.86 yards per route run, 7.6 yards after the catch per reception. He's listed at 6'4", 215 pounds. He's a big boy, but he's fast, explosive, can sell routes, nasty off the slants, can be aggressive, can take over games. He's a playmaker, and he's a candidate to get drafted in the first round in this year's draft. A lot of people talking him up. And when you look at people's rankings, they have all 3 of these wide receivers switched up and down as their top guy. Who is your top guy in this year's wide receivers class? I am just now scratching the surface with this group, with this 2023 NFL draft class on this channel, and I'm really getting the feet wet here, but we're going to start kicking it in gear as the season starts to end for both NFL and college, because this is really where we shed the light on players in the off season, because once we get into the NFL draft, it's all systems go. But let me know which wide receivers you're looking forward to in this year's draft. there's a lot more to cover. There's a lot more. I look at them every week, and I'm excited about them. Wide receiver is my favorite position to cover in all of football. It's my favorite one to watch tape on. My favorite one to grind stats out on is wide receiver. I want to hear about your favorite one as well. But make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. It's only going to help you. Redraft, I'm going to help you with stashes, waiver wires, pickups, trades, Dynasty. I'm going to help you with the markets, guys to pick up, rookies, Devy. I'm going to help you with rookies, college players, and everything else, tape, high school players. We go deep on this channel, and we cover everything from Devy to redraft and a little bit of everything in between. But I want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.